the Lord takes pleasure in his people and adorns the poor with victory. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
You be seated. We continue hearing this message from Romans. Last week, when you recall, how the scripture started by let love be genuine. That being pretty much the main sentence that we need to remember when we are faced with difficulties in life, when we are faced with stuff that is out of our control, and that's pretty much what is required of us in our faith, that always doing things in love genuinely. Today, Romans continue, Paul writing to a community that needed to hear this again, and he continued today by starting by summarizing the law, right? We heard in the scripture that he started, follow the commandments, no adultery, no murder, no steal, no covet. But then he continued with the most important part. In other words, if you cannot remember any of this, that's probably what it says in there. It says, love your neighbor as yourself. End of quote, period. Love your neighbor as yourself. Last week was said, let love be genuine. And now, love your neighbor as yourself. And then he explained why. That's why I love Paul. He was a great teacher. Then he goes, love does no wrong to a neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfilling of the law. If you want to remember all the things in the law, all that you have to do is love your neighbor. I don't know about you, but that's hard. Let's be honest with each other. Right? Let's have our group therapy right now. That's probably one of the phrases that is more simple to remember. Love your neighbor. Love, love, love. Right? But it's difficult in the act because, I don't know about you, but my nature as a human being is usually kind of rebellious. My head gets a little bit, hot when something happens to me. And doing that, sometimes I don't follow the rule like it should be. I know that's not your case, it's just mine. But love your neighbor as yourself. It sounds really nice when your neighbor is the one that brings you coffee or an extra cup of tea or something like that. Your neighbor is good, joy, right? But when your neighbor is touching some buttons, it's difficult to remember those words from Paul. But Paul is also a brilliant guy that Paul is in our lives. If Paul was here, he would say, wait, go to the top and says, no adultery, no covet, no murder, don't steal, that's loving me. And then you go, okay, does that mean that I can, sometimes feel a little feisty? Yes, you can feel it, but don't do anything about it. Okay? That's why we have therapists and priests. And you can come to a talk, right? Because the idea is for us as a community to understand that a Christian community should be a community of love, but it's not your St. Valentine's love with red, hearts and flowers and nice candy. Because sometimes in the Christian family we have a very sour worms that sometimes we have to swallow. And that's the moment in which we are actually just stepping forward and putting our things together and saying, I am a Christian. I know what you thought. I'm medicine. I'm here because of the camera, there's not people right there. But loving one another, it means that salvation is here. Loving the other the way it is does not mean loving the fault of the other. You know what I mean? Loving the other as that person is, but that person is also supposed to love me back in the same way. So the Christian community is all about going to the next step that we heard in the gospel today. I know you noticed that. So in other words, when you find somebody in the community that is not loving everybody else that they're supposed to, then Matthew goes, and I love Matthew. I think that Matthew was from New Jersey. I love Matthew because he comes. If someone sins against the other, talk to that person, one-on-one. I do what? Jason, we have to talk to you today. Okay? Those flamingos, man, are distracted. So, that's a one-on-one, right? Then Matthew goes, if he or her does not listen, bring one or two extra with you. That's when, I will bring, Jerry and Kathy with me to talk to you. Okay?
Jerry's going to help.
Really good. Jerry's going to help. Jerry's wife's birthday. Jerry's wife's. Bring the 2 or 3 to talk to them, to make sure that you actually, get to the person. Okay? And then, bring it to Facebook Live if you have to. That's the third step. And finally, if there is no change, bye. It's in the gospel. So, when we connect what the Romans reading is saying, you have to love, but it's not that you have to love and be hurt. Because when that person is trying to hurt you, then you have a way that you can actually try to deal with the situation in a Christian way. Okay? Because sometimes the problem that we have with these readings is that we try to preach it in a way that, you have to always be receiving because you have to love everybody. And the gospel says, no. If there is somebody that is doing something that is sinning against you or the community, there are ways. Talk to the person, make sure that the person knows what's going on, and they change. Awesome. If not, bring them there. And then the next step, until the end, the gospel even says, treat it like a Gentile. In other words, the word Gentile means what? Do not belong to the community. The Gentile were those that were outside of the Jewish community, right? Those that were not following Yahweh. In other words, that person, what that means in there is that person is not following actually God. So if they're not following the same God that you're following, goodbye. And that's what we need to guard in our lives. Because nowadays we are bombarded from every single corner. TV, internet, by email, by text messages now. And everything is trying to bombard us to actually avoid your own God. And we are facing a situation right now in this country that is telling us that it's more important to follow some people than to follow your God. And that's what we are living in. And today's gospel is telling us, love must be genuine, but that is not giving you anything in your life. Take it out of your life. Let's use the example of bingo. Back home, bingo used to be big, right? People just go every Sunday to play bingo and blah, blah, blah. And there were people just leaving, their salaries in the bingo gambling, right? Or all the types of gambling. So if that's what's happening in your life, you have to take it out. If you're being completely manipulated by social media, then turn it off for a while. Yesterday, this was coming. Yesterday, in the morning, I said, you know what? Let's go for a ride. We have been here, they were sick the entire week, and my son was sick too, so I said, let's go for a ride. Everybody's feeling well? Yeah, let's go for a ride. I'm not going to advertise this big gas station thing that is in the North Georgia. I'm not going to advertise it, but that big thing, we went over there.
Yeah.
So, the first thing I said, no cell phones in the car. We're going to talk.
Oh, no.
And they're still speaking to you?
And they're alive. Yes? Unplugging from having a device in the face all day. Unplugging, talking in the car, not even the radio was on, right? We were an hour and 40 minutes there, and an hour and 40 minutes back. Well, in the way back we were full because we ate some stuff over there, right?
30 minutes inside.
But they're alive. They did not die because they were not having their cell phone in their hand. Mommy, let's go. You go to the bathroom? Yeah, that's it. I need a Bible to come for you back. Right? Yes, it was shaky a little bit, you know. And one way I look to the mirror, I look and I see someone trying to fall asleep. They couldn't. That's just an example of unplugging someone. Because the problem is that nowadays, those things dominate your life. And you, right now I have been, trying to listen to the news, and then I have to go and probably, listen to different type of news to actually get 50% of the reality of what's happening in this country.
Yeah.
Because nowadays there is no other news than just that politics is happening in this country. There is no other news. There's nothing else in this country happening. No, nothing. And we get our lives completely taken over by things that are not part of your God. And the scripture says today that I should come to you. This is a one-on-one meeting with you and me, okay? The other people are not here. Okay? It's all of you one-on-one with me. Let's follow the scripture. Let's follow God. If something is messing with your brain all the time and you need to know, who was indicted this morning, you're doing nothing with your life. It is more important to actually be, eating at the dinner table, but, looking to see what's happening. And then the person sitting next to you is going like, okay, this is going to acknowledge that I'm here. Unplug yourself from that. Put yourself in the bedroom. Have that time completely unplugged. It is real. And we always say the kids are the ones doing this. We are worse. Because at least if I ask, what's going on in politics today? What's the word? I don't know. They're just watching, people doing, insane stuff, right? But we are the ones bombarding our brains with stuff that is actually out of our control. And then we forget about our own household. Having a one-on-one meeting that this scripture says with all of you, because we need to put aside all those things and follow the God that is telling you, love. Let me read it faithfully. Love your neighbor as yourself. And loving the neighbor is knowing that we are talking about the needs that people need, the prayers that people need in my life. I'm understanding that we are in a moment in our history in which we actually need to be more than ever with our feet very well grounded, because it's going to be a rocky ride. We are over a year of a lot of stuff that is going to be happening in this country, and they're going to try to pull everybody apart. And the idea is we need to be grounded in God. We need to know that we need to love one another, pray for one another, and at the same time, like Matthew is saying, whatever is not from God, we are allowed to say, fine. And sometimes that's the hardest part. The hardest part sometimes is to let that area of myself that is pushing me to not live my Christian life to the fullest because I just do it this. I will give the example. I think I told you this in one of my sermons. I went to the doctor one day. I used to smoke many months ago. So I remember I went to the doctor one day, and the doctor just sit right there and go, you know, when the doctor do this, that means it's your fault. It's not a sickness. It's not something. When the doctor goes like this in front of you, it's because, you know, I have been telling you that you don't listen, right? So the doctor went and look at me and goes, do you want to die before you're 50? And I just look at him and go, what are you talking about? He said, you're 455 pounds. You're a smoker, 2 packs a day. What are you going to do with your life? That day I went home, and I remember this. I just stopped at the store that day. I brought a pack of cigarettes. And I put it in front of I had one of those islands, right? In the apartment. I put it right there in the middle. You stay there. Because always, oh, my last one, I didn't buy any more. Never happened. Put it right there. And every day I start passing it. Sometimes we do some holy water. Good. So, day 12. No smoking anymore. I'm not feeling the thing. The only thing that I have to do, let me grab this for a second. Imagine this is a pen. The only thing that I have to do is, because I have a customer every time I sit in my car, like one, grab a pen, middle of my finger, driving with a pen right there. Go to work, come back from work, and the pen right there on my finger. Right? The customer, the memory. Day 30 came. Let me celebrate by opening it. Open the thing. Light one up, and it tastes like I actually tasted the worst thing that I have tasted in my life. We put it aside, never again. That was 13, 14 years ago. And the reason I tell you this is because that is just an example of something that is in your life that probably is not doing anything good to you. And we know it. The same way happens when we are so affiliated that the Georgia Bulldogs are more important than your God. You know what I'm going with this? I thought it was going to hurt. Sour corn today. Sometimes family members become more important than God. Sometimes some relationship that builds nothing into your life. Sometimes we have some friends that are the ones that actually bring the bad stuff into your house and you still have them. Bring nothing into your life. That friendship that give you, some bad advice in your ear, forget about what Michelle is saying. Let's go outside. Happens. And we know that today's scripture is pretty much telling us, do an inventory of what's going on with your life and take everything that is not helping you grow as a human being and as a Christian. Sometimes it hurts. Sometimes it hurts. Christian. It's not what we used to do 10 years ago because we want to do it because we did it that way and blah, blah, blah. It's getting us nowhere. Right now we are accepting the truth from a TikTok. Oh, I saw it. TikTok is true. Yeah, I feel that. Or you go and buy something in Amazon because you saw it. For some of us, it's Amazon. Continue the package is arriving. For some of us, it's I don't know. You name it, you know. What I'm talking about, you know exactly what area of your life is consuming you, not in a Christian way, that is not allowing you to actually live your life at your fullest. Which at the end of the day, the call of a Christian is to live life at its fullest. I know. I'm going to use this as an example, okay? Disclaimer. I know that when you make a decision in your life that hurts, but you know that is the best for you and your family, you have to do it, right? These two individuals right here at the back, it's their last day with us today because they're moving to Florida. We know that hurts, but it's the best decision for them as a family. We're going to miss them, of course. We're still connected. You got my phone. We got, well, cameras when they work. If it's not, it's going to be there. Okay? It's a decision that probably many of us will go, I will do it. Because it's the best decision for your family. I'm sorry to take it as time. But it's sometimes a decision that you have to make that are like that. Okay? Because it is something that is precious and it's part of who we are right now, but the highest goal is to have the fullness of life as possible. And that's what we want. So that's why today we need to follow that advice from the scripture and identify those things that are not allowing us to grow. And start pushing it to the side. Because if we want to grow, if we want to have a nice Christmas this year when you receive that little baby Jesus, a renewed person, it's because we are putting everything that is not allowing us to grow to the side. And sometimes it hurts. For some people, sometimes even changing a job. That you have been for 10 years or 15 years, 20 years, but you're doing nothing to your life, and actually pushing you down, pushing you down, pushing you down, get out. For some of us, it's right now, Margaret went through this recently, right? Changing a life, moving properties, selling the properties, and then finally you see how God is moving in your life right now, right? Sometimes it hurts. Because I know that the last time that you see that property from the back mirror of your car, it hit a spot. But what is the best for the fullness of life of that moment in that family? That's what it's all about. Again, finally, Paul is asking us today, and not in the gospel, to make sure that we are loving, but when there is somebody that is hurting us, you have the steps. You don't have to follow all in the same way. Because there are some steps that is out of my life. Yes. I know it's weird to hear the priest in the pulpit, right? And even on camera saying, because there are situations where you need to take them out of your life immediately. Okay? And then pray for the conversion. That's what you have to do. Because at the end of the day, sometimes our worst enemies are looking at you in the mirror. Because we are the ones who hold grudges for other people that are not even in your life anymore, that they are happily ever after, and you're still with the grudge right here. So if that is the case, that's the other thing that we have to start taking out of our hearts. Grudges and holds than just hurting you, nobody else. So let's really pray that we are able to look at our lives and see how God is wanting us to continue growing in peace, in fulfillment of life, in which we can feel peace overall, and that we are happy with the way things are moving forward into that fulfillment of happiness until the day that we actually get to heaven and enjoy that banquet with all our friends and family that have been going there before us. Amen. Amen.